you're both giving up something you both want for something both of you don't want. That's what a compromise is. Imagine I gave up what I wanted to do all the time to be where Radhi wanted me to be. I'm going to be feeling upset. I'm going to be thinking I should be doing this or I could be doing this. And then you develop bitterness towards the other person when you can't even respect and appreciate them. I feel like you actually move closer away by forcing yourself together when actually you could move closer together by allowing yourselves to have that space. Hey everyone, welcome back to On Purpose and our annual episode with the one and only Radhi Jay Shetty.
Hey.
We do this every single year. The first ever episode on the podcast on the 14th of February 2019 was Radhi. We did our 1 year celebration with Radhi, and this is now our 2 year celebration with Radhi. The podcast is now officially 2 years old.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. But also I thought, number one, you'd keep my seat warm for me.
Is it not warm?
I mean, and seeing as I'm like probably the person that's been on the podcast the most, I thought maybe I'd have like some of my favorite snacks here, but I had to bring my own tea, didn't I?
This is your house.
Had to bring my own tea, didn't I?
This is your house and the snack cupboard is yours and you do own this
But
place.
It's different if you bring it for me. But I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, I don't know what we're going to speak about, but I'm very excited.
Yeah, so Radhi and I don't plan these. What we do is we ask my team, friends, people we know, people we don't know to come up with questions that we can discuss. And that's what we're going to do today. We think 2020 was a incredible year for relationships and the challenges it brought with that. So we want to dive in today about how we tried to navigate 2020. And as always, these conversations are completely raw and open and vulnerable, where we're sharing with you our mistakes, the things we got wrong, the things we learned, the things we got right. We're sharing all of it in this conversation. So I really, really hope that you enjoy this one.
As do I. So let's go. What should we start with?
So the first question that I have from our team is, what do you find hardest about love?
I was actually thinking about this morning when I was thinking about coming and speaking here. Coming and speaking to you. And I was thinking about how, you know, a lot of the time when you end up feeling annoyed at your partner or irritated in some way, or when they really annoy you, no, I'm just it actually made me realize that a lot of the time, you know, they say it ends up being a reflection of you. And I think a lot of, when I think about what ends up, like when we have our like petty arguments or whatever it is, I feel like it's actually because it hits at a sore point of me realizing that it's my, whatever we're arguing about, how I'm reacting, it's my weakness. And a lot of the time that's stubbornness. And so I feel like whenever I think that's quite a difficult thing when it comes to relationships or love, is that the other person, because you spend so much time with them and because, you know, they know you better than anybody else, that they end up being a reflection of actually you. So every time you end up having interactions with them that aren't that great, actually a lot of the time you can sit there and be like, maybe that had a lot more to do with me, how I reacted rather than that other person. But sometimes it's them too.
That's a really good answer. That's a really good answer. I think that's such a good point. I think what I'm saying is I would second that. And to give another answer, to give a different answer, I also feel the hardest thing in a relationship is you're always projecting your strengths onto the other person's weaknesses. So you want the other person to be more like you, but when you really think about it, you don't. Like you love the other person for not being like you. But when you say things like, I'll give an example, that I'm super organized, disciplined, live by the schedule, on time.
So am I.
And at times in our relationship, I've wanted you to become like that and do things like me. And when I've really sat with that and really thought with that, I realized actually I don't want you to be like me because I love you for not being me.
Yeah.
And the things that you bring to this relationship, whether it's spontaneity, whether it's being fresh, whether it's being always alive, like that's the strength. And I think what we do in relationships is we dampen our partner's strengths instead of amplifying them. And what that does is it makes your partner feel like they have to do something different or be something different. But actually, if you amplified their strengths, which is the part you love anyway, you're going to have a much more fulfilling and exciting relationship. So I think that I find that hard because I think we all live in our heads.
Yeah, it's so true.
And we think the way we think is the right way. I'm
like, hey, what do you want to do tomorrow? And you're like, well, I kind of have a 9 to 5, like 6 schedule ready to go for the next like 6 months. And I'm like, oh, so you don't want to go shopping with me, or you don't want to go to like get some plants? And yeah, no, I agree. And I feel like but I also think from that, you know, it also helps, even if you're not doing, even if you feel like it's a negative thing, to notice that and to try and correct it. In the same way, I think it can also help the other person tighten up on that area of their life too. Like, okay, cool, you may be super organized and I may be not very organized at all. But at the same time, we can find like a good middle ground when we're together where it's like, okay, you know that I like being spontaneous. So maybe randomly you'll be like, okay, cool. Like, what you do? You're like, oh, you know, I'll just cancel my meeting, or I won't do this and let's just go do this. And for me, I'm like, oh, okay. And I know that I try to be a little bit more organized, where I'm like, oh, okay, I need to make sure I do this today. I need to make sure I give you this today, like whatever it is, like trying to make that better as well. Because even though it's a strength in some ways, every strength ends up being a weakness in some way too. So I think it helps, you know, kind of balance it out as well, and help the other person notice when they need to probably change a little bit.
Absolutely. Okay, second question is, how did your relationship change in 2020?
How did it change? I kind of feel like this felt like our first year of marriage, because we we have not spent this much time together in a whole entire relationship. And so I kind of feel like, for me, it felt like we were on our honeymoon type feel, where we just got married and we were learning so much more about each other. But then we ended up, just really understanding one another and settling into each other a lot better than we probably even have for the past, how many years have we been married? Like 3 years? 4 years?
We've nearly been married 5 years.
Nearly 5 years, but it feels like 1 year. But yeah, no, I think it really made us, it really helped us understand each other better. It helped us get into a rhythm together, which I don't feel like we ever really had a rhythm together. And so I think it's actually changed I can't think of any ways that it's changed in a negative way. I really think that it's improved our relationship through figuring a lot of stuff out, but it's definitely got to a point now where I'm like, oh wow, that whole year was definitely a good jump or a good step up for us.
Yeah, I'd have to say one of my favorite things was, it was the first year where we started doing a lot of physical activity together, because we always go on like travel together or something like that. But it was the first year we started actually working out and exercising together.
Yeah.
So we used to go on hikes up Griffiths Park and then Runyon, and then we'd go on walks.
We did.
And just so many opportunities to be in nature together, because we weren't going to the gym. And then we were doing in-home workouts together with a virtual workout.
Yeah.
And we'd put our playlist on with that song that you were talking about the other day.
Don't Rush. That's the song of 2020 for me.
And I just think that we were forced to just spend so much time together, but we actually found ways to do things we enjoyed together.
I think we actually realized that we were spending time together in the wrong ways before. Like, I feel like that's what it made us realize, that we thought going shopping together or going to watch a movie together was like, and sitting and watching a movie together were the ways that we would be spending time together. And then we realized that actually we just really enjoy doing, whether it's like normal things like working out, but it feels so much more fun for us than sitting there and doing something that I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, like something that where we're not talking or we're not interacting, and the focus is somewhere else. Whereas this, it's like you're completely focused on the activity, completely focused on the other person. And it was just so much more fun to do that stuff together, even if it is just like working out and or going for a walk or whatever it is. But it felt so much more interactive and so much more fun. Yeah.
And for everyone who's listening and watching, this was the year that Radhi and I have spent the most actual time together since we've been married.
Yeah.
And since we were dating, because I'm always traveling. She's back at home in London sometimes. She's traveling. And for us to be in this space together, we had to focus on learning about each other even more. So it was a big change for us.
Yeah.
And like Radhi said, I think the same. I think it just brought about positives for us, thankfully. And you know, we grew a lot closer this year. I feel.
Yeah. And I do think it's also because I don't feel like it felt natural, but at the same time it was natural because we were both very aware and intentional of how we were interacting with the other person. Because of how bad it's gone in the past, I feel like we have been able to use all of those mistakes that we made where we were really trying to figure out a way for it to be better. Like we both had the intention of making it better, whether it was like quarantine, whether it was COVID, whatever it was, that like I feel like we'd gone through so many times where we tried and it may be like we still weren't understanding each other, where we're like, no, this time we both actually really want to intentionally make an effort to have conversations that we maybe don't have, to resolve things in a way that we don't normally resolve things. And so yeah, I think that's also important, because it wasn't just like, oh, this was nice, like it just happened this way. I feel like it was definitely something we thought about and tried as well. I'll do a question for you.
Go on.
I was thinking about this earlier too, like, and I was going to ask you separately, but I thought, why not ask you on here, put you on the spot. What is like, okay, for example, you know, in a relationship when one person asks the other person to do something, like I always think about this with you, because you always, regardless of when I ask you to do something, no matter if you're like, let's say something simple, like we're both sitting watching something and I'm literally like to you, oh, I really want this. And like, I haven't even asked you to do it, but you'll literally get up and you'll go and do it for me. Or like, I'll ask you to go get something and you'll like, you won't even flinch, like you'll go out of your way to do it. And actually I was thinking about it and like, that seems like such a small thing, but I actually feel like it's not, because a lot of the time where even if it's with your mum, your dad, whatever, it's just, oh, do I really have to go and get it? Like, can't you just go do it yourself? But you, I feel, have generally always been like that. And so I was just going to ask you, because I think it'll be helpful for other people too and helpful for me, like what goes through your mind when, even if I'm being really irritating or being a brat, like what makes you just continually do that without like moaning?
The first thing that goes through my mind is, you are such a brat.
Yeah.
you are closer to that light switch right now. You are closer to the water container right now.
Yeah.
Why are you asking me to do this? That's the first thing that goes through my mind.
Yes.
And then my monk mind comes in, and there's two sides to it. First of all, I know you're not asking me because you're trying to make my life difficult. You're doing it because you want to be loved that way. and
Maybe, yeah.
And I think that when you realize, if you're in a loving, trusting relationship, you start realizing that your partner's requests, even if they seem unreasonable and irrational, a lot of the time, that's just how you want to be loved in that moment. And when you see it in that way, you go, yeah, of course I want to love you in that way, because you're not doing it to hurt me, because I know you love me. You're not doing it to upset me. You're obviously not doing it to irritate me. Mm-hmm. So then the only reason you could be doing that is because you need some love right now, and you need love in that way, or you need connection in that way, or you need intimacy in that way. And so you're asking for it because it's a request for love. And I think we think of requests for love as like, oh, give me a hug, or I need to talk to you. We think of those things, but actually it's the day-to-day moments in the small things where someone's saying, please love me, please see me, please show up for me.
Please bring me a snack.
Please bring me a snack. And I think we mistake that language because we think, oh, that person's being so irritable.
So demanding.
So demanding. And maybe they are. And that's something that you have to check for yourself.
True.
So if you are that person, Radhi, then you have to check for yourself whether it is demanding and stubborn or whether it is a request for love.
Yeah.
For yourself. But I've made it in my mind that I believe you love me. Mm-hmm. And so if I believe you love me, then I should believe that this is you asking for love. And so, but if I didn't believe you love me and I was insecure about that, then it would be really annoying. yeah. And so it doesn't mean that I don't have that thought. It doesn't mean that I don't get internally frustrated with you for a second. And then straight after that, this kicks in and that walks me through it. And I think when people sometimes say to me like, oh, well, haven't you got it all figured out? I'm like, no, the first thought is never the thought that has it all figured out. The first thought is always, oh gosh, whatever. Yeah. It's the second thought.
It's taking that time to have that second thought rather than reacting to the first.
Yeah. So that's the answer to that question.
That's great. Thank you. I've always wondered that. I have actually.
So this question came in from our team. It says, tell me about a time where you think we've made a compromise and how did it work out? I'm going to go first.
I know the first thing you're going to say is, I don't believe in compromises in relationships.
You know me so well. So
Please continue.
that's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, as soon as I hear the word compromise, I have a very interesting relationship with the word compromise because I believe that compromise makes you feel that both of you are giving up something you want for something you both don't want.
Oh, yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense to me.
Repeat that. Rewind. That's a good point. Go on. Have a Jay Shetty moment.
So I have a really interesting relationship with the word compromise because I don't understand what compromise means is that you're both giving up something you both want for something both of you don't want. That's what a compromise is. So it feels like one person is getting what they want and the other person is not getting what they want. That's what a compromise is. Mm-hmm. Whereas what I have tried to live by in our relationship is I want you to get what you want and I want to get what I want. Mm-hmm. Now, if that doesn't mesh all the time or if that doesn't connect all the time, then the only thing that's being compromised is this false view that we should always feel the same way about everything. Mm-hmm. And I think that actually makes space for resentment. It makes space for bitterness. It's almost like, think about this, everyone who's listening and watching, think about this for a moment. Imagine I gave up what I wanted to do all the time to be where Radhi wanted me to be. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be feeling upset. I'm going to be thinking I should be doing this or I could be doing this. Mm-hmm. And then you develop bitterness towards the other person where you can't even respect and appreciate them. And if you were always dragged to what I'm doing, you may be thinking, well, I could be doing this or I could be doing that. Mm-hmm. And what ends up happening is I feel like you actually move closer away by forcing yourself together.
Wait, say that again.
You actually end up moving further away. You actually end up moving further away by forcing yourself to be together.
Yes.
When actually you could move closer together by allowing yourselves to have that space.
I agree.
So that's my relationship with the word compromise.
We've both been very happy for the other person to live freely, to do what they want to do and without pressure of being like, okay, cool, it's my friend's birthday, for example. And if you're not that interested in coming or I'm not that interested in coming with you, it's not like, oh my gosh, but you have to come. Like, we're a couple. We can't go places without one another. Like, we're just like, okay, cool. Like, you don't need to go. And we understand that too. It's like, yeah, it's going to be boring for you. Like, you don't need to come with me. And we're very good at making it quite clear if something is important to us, whether it's family stuff, whether it's whatever. Say, okay, cool, you don't need to come to this family thing, but I would really appreciate it if you could make some time and come here. And so I think it's also that where it doesn't feel like a compromise if you know that it's the same thing as what you were saying about the bringing me water or snacks. It's like, you know that the person loves you. And so if you make it explicitly clear what's valuable to you and you still don't feel heard by them, then that's one thing. But like, if I know that you love me and you know what's important to me, I feel like you always know when you need to show up. And if, for example, you haven't and I may not have communicated it to you, if I tell you afterwards, it's always like, oh, I'm so sorry, I had no idea that's how you felt. And so, yeah, I think it's important, one, like letting the other person know what is of value to you and whether it's actually that important. Not being like, oh, come with me, and the person says no, and then you're like, oh, okay, fine. Like it doesn't have to be like that. It can be oh, but please, I like, this is really important to me. So it's communicating and letting you know about that. And also, yeah, understanding that the other person loves you and that if they are saying no, it's not because they're trying to hurt you. It's because they maybe genuinely have something that's more important to go to or to do.
Yeah. And I think you're right that's a really good point because you expect the other person to read your mind and to know why it should be important to you. And we often have that thought like, you should know this is important to me. But the truth is that in every relationship, like no one knows until you explain to them. And I think in our love relationships, in our romantic, even in our friendships, we just expect everyone to fully know what we value. Yeah,
it's like even with family, for example, just if someone is really close to their family, you expect in your mind that they realize that that's an important thing. But if, for example, that person is not that close to their family, in their mind, it's like, oh, it's my uncle's birthday. come to my uncle's birthday and you're like, I won't even go to my own, you're not you, but generally someone else might be like, oh, I won't even go to my own uncle's birthday because I'm not that close to them. So I think it's like you are expecting the other person to live how you live and how you have your relationships or how you value things. And it's an unfair expectation because people have been through so many different things in life.
Awesome. All right. Next question on the list.
Next up
is we both have such hectic schedules in life and lots of work going on all our commitments. How do we find time to spend time alone and time with each other?
I get asked that a lot, actually. I have so many,
Really?
even some of my family members are always like, but does he have time to spend with you? Like, do you guys have time? Like, I was speaking to one of my family friends the other day and she was just like, are you sure you guys spend time with each other? And I was like, yeah, we actually spend a lot of time together, but I can understand why people may think that. But yeah, you know, I don't feel like we've ever really felt, I feel like even if we've had the moments where we've had like months apart, we do make an effort that when we are together, especially recently within the past year or 2 years, would you say? You say 2 years? We've started doing a thing where we make sure that we have at least a weekend that we spend solid together. And sometimes that's more time that you spend together, even if you were seeing someone every single day for like a month, because it's condensed time, it's intentional. And it's with the sole purpose to spend time together and communicate and be together in a meaningful way. So yeah, we definitely make that time. But it's also because we choose to do that.
Yeah, I think we both thankfully gravitate towards quality time versus quantity of time. And so we'll both be like, well, if we're both tired today, we'd rather not force ourselves to try and spend time together and give each other space or give each other time to decompress. And this weekend, we'll make sure we spend time together rather than the artificial force of like, today we had to spend time together because we promised or we said we would. Yeah. And it's like, but maybe we're both not got the right energy right now. And we haven't got that presence right now. And so I think it's a mutual understanding. At the same time, I feel like, you know, there've been different parts in our relationship. Like I remember when we lived in New York, we probably didn't spend a lot of quality time together because the only time I had off was the weekends and I was busy working sometimes too. And you were doing all your courses and your work on the weekends. And so I spent a ton of my weekends alone and you spent a ton of your weekdays alone. And if you think back, that's literally was the pattern of our life for 2 years. And then there was travel to London and everywhere else I was going. And I think through all of that, it was always just about savoring those moments. It was about really cherishing and realizing that we were in a building phase. And so I want to address something here actually that I think will be really interesting for people is I talk a lot about like the 5 cycles of life that we all go through. So we have learn, experiment, perform, struggle, thrive. And so these are like different stages you go through every year. And when we were in New York, we were in a build phase of our life. Like we were both building. We just got married. I'd literally just started my career. You were discovering your career. We were in a build phase. And I think when you expect a lot from your partner, when you're both building, it can be really demanding. But now we're at a stage in our life where certain things we're performing in, where I've got a bit of a rhythm and a role. And so I'm able to give more time and you're in this different stage in your life. And I feel like when you start looking at your life as stages, as opposed to like everything
this is how it's going to be forever.
It's like, it can't be that way. And there's actually a really good book on this by Gary Chapman. And I think it's called The 4 Seasons of Love or The 4 Seasons of Marriage or Relationships. Cool. And it talks about how is your relationship right now in the season of summer, winter, spring, or autumn? Now, when I think about this, I think that all of us want our relationship to always be in summer.
I mean, I like winter, but...
Okay. Well, you just ruined it.
You ruined it. Go along with it.
Yeah. We always want our relationship to be in summer in the sense that it's hot, it's passionate, it's cool. It's like everything's good about summer, right? We all look forward to summer. But maybe your relationship's at a point in life right now, as this book says, that your relationship might be in winter. It's going for a dark period, a cold period where you just got to stick it out together. Yeah. When I think about New York, when I think about us in New York, it was a bit of winter and spring.
Yeah.
Like it was a bit of winter and spring, and autumn's like where you got to let go and you got to shed. And I think about when we first started dating, there were moments where our relationship was in autumn,
Yeah.
where we were just letting things go and purging and removing energy. I know when you were going to yoga classes and your yoga teacher training. So I think that book's a great model, and that reflection that I've had for a while, that your life goes through stages and seasons, and stop trying to make every day and every week summer.
Yeah. I really love that. That's so cool. What a great book.
Yeah, I had a reflection. I started researching and then I found the book. And the way I was thinking about it is like, if you know it's winter, you take an umbrella out.
Yeah.
If you know it's winter, you put a coat on.
Yeah.
But if you think it's summer, you keep expecting your partner to, Anyway, so this is an interesting question. What film or TV show do you think offers the best example of a healthy relationship?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. I automatically in my mind go to This Is Us, because it's one of my favorite shows ever.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen it, but it's so good. And
we love Chrissy, our good friend.
Love Chrissy. But there are actually really lovely examples of couples who like make it through stuff in that, whether it's like the main couple. I'm sure, to be honest, most people have probably seen it. You're just the odd one out. But the main mum and dad, and then there's Sterling. What's his name? Sterling Brown. Sterling, the actor.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think that's in something Sterling or Sterling something. You'll know who I mean. But their relationship is amazing because they go through so many ups and downs, but they're so good at communication. And I feel like that's a very good show to show very different types of relationships. Even Chrissy's relationship with her partner, her husband on the show, they're all so different in relationships and the way they communicate, but they show very good, very, very realistic and useful relationships, I feel.
Yeah.
I love that show. It's so good.
I actually struggle with this question because I think, I don't watch a lot of TV shows, but I do watch a lot of movies. And I think growing up, I had a really unhealthy view of love because of movies.
It's so true.
So I grew up watching Bollywood movies a lot. And I remember thinking that that's what love had to look like.
Yeah, like a flower comes up in the middle when two people are about to kiss. That's what they do in Bollywood.
Or like you're all like dancing around and like there's all this like...
in a field
there's all this
puppies.
And like music's playing when you fall in love with someone.
And I'm running towards you in slow motion and my hair naturally falls like this.
Yeah.
And you're coming towards me, and then it cuts because they don't show anything else in Bollywood films back in the day.
And so that's what I grew up with unhealthy projections of love.
Yeah.
And the thing that comes to mind when I am thinking about this, apart from the Last Dance Michael Jordan documentary, which doesn't show marriage, but shows like love in a team and camaraderie and collaboration. I'll try and find a bit more of I actually think The Happy Place, The Good Place. Sorry, The Good Place. I always call it The Happy Place. Kristen Bell's character, Eleanor, and her relationship with Chidi, like the way it shows relationship dynamics is really interesting about like what is a good relationship, what is support, what is friendship. Like I think it answers a lot of deeper questions.
Yeah, and that is such a good show.
It's such a great show. I'm enjoying it so much, and we came to it late, but we're loving it.
Yeah.
And I just think it has so many good messages, so I'd have to go with that.
Okay, cool. This Is Us and Happy Place.
Yeah.
No, was it?
The Good Place. The Good Place, yeah. I call it The Happy Place all the time as well. And I'm going back to what the shows I grew up on. I grew up on The OC and Desperate Housewives. Both not good examples of relationship ideas. And Friends you grew up on, which again, I
wouldn't say it's like the best relationship stuff. It's just comedy but I agree with movies. It's for girls and for guys, I guess. I didn't think that it was such a big thing for guys because growing up, I always think guys just like aren't thinking about like romance in that stage of their life. But for girls, I think for sure, you're just always seeing how like the girl's like the damsel in distress and the guy like saves her, and I think it's movies mess you up.
Okay, this is an interesting question. Have you ever experienced doubt in our relationship, and how do you express doubt?
I guess maybe like right at the beginning when I'm trying to think. Yeah. I'm sure I did right at the beginning, and then like, you know, just before you're getting married and like everything's like a bit confusing and there's just so much going on because of wedding, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I have to get married to this person. No,
really? As in, no, seriously, I want to know.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
I think probably just at the beginning when everything was so up in the air, because like, you know, as I'm sure in most cultures, but in our culture, it's like the man should have a job and the man should be the breadwinner, and like
which is not true.
You should have which is not true. And he should have everything figured out before you get into a relationship with that person. Like everything should already be set before you even think about marriage. And we really didn't have that. And so I think probably at the beginning, but I was so lucky because my mum and dad really were just so okay that I naturally feel doubts can come into your mind when other people get in your mind. But I think I was quite sure. I felt like straight away, I knew I had a connection with you. I knew that your values and the person that you were, I just knew we would be able to grow so deeply together. And that's really what I was focusing on. And then I was so lucky that the rest of everything else fell into place. And I'm so grateful for that. But I knew that the core thing that I wanted in the relationship was there for us to grow deeper in our spiritual lives together. And that was the main focus for me. And then we started having fun. I was like, oh, he is fun. Like, he's just not just like a teacher and like just so deep, but you also were so fun. And all the things that I maybe hadn't thought about was important to me slowly started coming. And I was like, oh, that is really important to me. Gosh, I didn't realize that at the beginning that that's what I wanted. But yes, the doubt was definitely like taken away by me constantly going back to the fact that I wanted to be in that relationship with you for that reason. And that's a good honest answer.
Yeah, I think my only doubt was always, and it's funny because it's so hard to express this, because I remember it was really funny when your family had mentioned this to you, and it was like, are you sure he's not going to run back and be a monk, right? And run back to the monastery. And it's so interesting because my only doubt in our relationship previously, not anymore, had ever been that, should I have been alone?
Yeah.
So my doubt was never like you or another person, or if you were the right person.
Yeah.
It's always been, it's either you or me being alone. And I think that comes from me loving being alone and spending so much time alone. And I think there was a part of our relationship where, because I was spending long periods on my own, I always considered that. And I had that consideration of like, oh, is this what I'm meant to be doing? Like, should I have done this? Like, I think a bit part of my doubt came from a bit of sadness that I was like, oh, am I taking her away from her family? Am I taking her away from her dreams? Am I taking, like, that was where my doubt of should I have been alone came from, was, oh no, maybe I'm like, for my pursuing of my purpose, which I'm really dedicated to, am I taking her away? That was where my doubt came from, that am I so selfish that maybe I should be doing my purpose alone? Why should I drag someone else on my journey?
And I actually think in the beginning, I probably felt that way too. Like I probably, when we went to New York, it definitely felt like compromising, because I felt like the only thing I really had at that time in my life that I truly valued and felt I was very concrete in was my family, and that's what my whole life revolved around. And so I guess at the beginning, because I hadn't matured in my thoughts of what this relationship was, I did feel like that. And I remember there used to be times where I was like, well, I can't remember, but I'm sure that there were moments where in my mind I felt like, well, we have to go back for my family to do this because you've taken me away anyway. Like, you've taken me to New York, and so now we have to do this because I want to do this, or we have to, like, you need to do this for me because we've done this for you. And but I definitely, now looking back, I realized actually it was all so much more for like it. So I don't feel that way at all anymore. But I can I can relate. I probably had those feelings a little bit at the beginning that you're probably feeling from me.
No, it's good. I think these are great conversations to have. And what's interesting about these conversations though is that sometimes you don't have them in the moment.
Yeah.
If you don't monitor that well, that could end up breaking something.
Definitely.
And we're lucky that it didn't.
I feel like it could have though. If I then didn't choose to like figure out what was going wrong with me, and I was projecting that all on you and making it feel like it was the issue was our relationship or the issue was you, but really it was me having a lack of awareness of myself that I had to do that. Otherwise, I think I would have constantly kept blaming it on that and constantly felt that way.
And I have so much admiration for you and respect for you because of that, because I think that it's so easy. I was always trying to compensate and help in whatever way I could, but I feel like you doing that is what's made our relationship so strong, is that you've just really worked hard on the last few years of finding yourself, discovering yourself, working, and you've tried a lot of things. Like it's not been easy. And, you know, I feel like I found my thing when I was 18 and I've been doing it for 15 years. And it's funny for me to think that, because a lot of people online are like, oh, Jay, you've only been doing this online for like 3 or 4 years. And I've been doing this for 15 years. Yeah. But for you, I've watched you since we've met, which was, since we've been together, which is nearly 8 years now. Yeah. And I've seen you like try this, try that, experiment with this. And actually it's been really amazing. Why don't you tell people about how you feel your journey's been of discovering your real passion? Because I think people see you now and you've got your amazing YouTube channel and your Instagram page and all the wonderful stuff you're doing. And people may think, oh yeah, Radhi just... And yes, you've always had this energy that everyone loves you for and that I fell in love with you for. But the way you're expressing it now has definitely evolved, right?
Yeah, definitely. To be honest, I feel like I had no idea what I was doing till beginning of March last year, when all of this started happening. And it was the first time I had to literally sit there and be like, oh crap, I have no excuse of, oh, I can't do this because I have to go with Jay traveling. Like, I can't start my own thing because, I'm never really in the country and it's really difficult. I just want to focus on what Jay has and I'm just there to support him. And I realized, as much as that was true and I did want to do that, it was probably a big covering for me not wanting to actually figure out what I wanted to do, because everything just felt so scary to start something. And yeah, it just kind of stripped all of that away, where I was like, no, I have to fill my days with something that feels meaningful and figure out what that is to me and how that looks to me. And so I just started, and yeah, I definitely tried so many different ways and different things, whether it was like I did a website during that time, and it's not the best website, but it's like the website that I started off with, and I put so much effort into it. I did like 100 recipes within a couple of months, because I really focused on it. And it just showed me, because I was such a person that I would start something, and as soon as I felt a little bit overwhelming, or even felt like it was getting good or succeeding in some way, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that means I have to take another step forward, and I'm not sure I want to do that. Okay, let's just shut it down and go somewhere else and do something else. And I realized that pattern that I had. And so I was really determined to not do that with this, because I almost like get in my own way of being a failure, in my mind being a failure, because I choose to not take the next step, not because anything else comes in my way, but because the fear of the next step would always scare me enough to not want to take it. And so it was really amazing, actually. I was like, just looking at myself from an outside perspective, and I was like, oh my gosh, I never ever thought she could do this. Like, I never thought I could do that. I never thought I would actually still be making recipes. I thought it was like something I do for a month and then get bored and be like, can't be bothered to keep adding on to this website anymore. But yeah, and then I decided to try my YouTube thing, which, oh my gosh, took so long to actually start because of fear again pushing me away from it. But you've always been so amazing and supportive in that, constantly. Like, you see everything happening for me before I even dream about it. And I think it's just been so nice, because whenever I've had doubts, you've been so amazing at helping me through them practically, where it's in like a supportive way of just love, but a lot of the time it's really taking the time to have the conversations with me. And I avoid the conversations, and you're like, okay, what do you need to do next? Like, what is it I'm like, I don't want to talk about it right now. I haven't figured it out and I just don't want to speak about it. But you constantly would help like push me through, because you saw that it was coming from a place of fear, not because I actually didn't want to. And I think that's really important too. It's like, I know with a lot of your stuff, like 99% of the time, you don't necessarily need to speak to me about it, but there are certain times that you do want to discuss things, and vice versa. Like, I obviously need you to input in a lot more of my stuff, because I feel like you've done a lot of the things that I've done, and I really appreciate your advice for it. But I think there is so much of the support being in so many different ways throughout the times that I needed it. And to be honest, I don't know how I got here, but I'm really happy that I did it. I'm so happy because I never expected myself to be able to do that ever. And I just genuinely feel for everybody else that's listening to this that I was like, that's where my spontaneity that can be a strength and ended up being something that was such a weakness for me in the areas where I wanted to commit to something. And and I'm not just saying this, genuinely, if I can do it, ask my mum. She will tell you, if I can do it, I 100% know that other people can. Whatever it is that you love doing, just try it out. And if I can do it, oh my gosh, you all can definitely do it. Yeah. But enough about me.
What I genuinely love about the way you're doing it though, is that even though you have become more organized and disciplined and focused to figure this out, you haven't lost who you are. Yeah. And I think that's the hardest part. And I love seeing that in you. Like each and every video, the amount of effort you put in. I know the amount of effort that goes behind the scenes when you're about to launch a video and like your nerves and your excitement. And you just want to make everything so wonderful for everyone. And I love that. I love that even though you've become organized and focused and disciplined and all those things that you've had to learn, that you haven't lost yourself in it. Because I think that's possible too. So I love watching it and it makes me really happy. And what you were just saying at the end, you know, there's an old relationship rule of like, don't keep the score. And it's been said for many, many years of like, don't keep score in a relationship. But often score feels like, oh, I did this favor. What did someone else do? And what I've realized is that score should not be kept energetically. And so what I mean by that is I really feel that you carry the relationship sometimes emotionally. And so I may be carrying it mentally, but you're carrying it emotionally. And so if you're only looking at the mental score, I'll be going like, oh, well, I'm doing everything. Why are you not doing anything mentally? Like you're not planning, you're not setting goals, you're not doing this. But that's because I'm only measuring it on my scorecard. And I think it's so important to be like, well, there are so many different scorecards. There's physical, financial, mental, emotional, spiritual. There are 5 scorecards. First of all, there shouldn't be a scorecard. But I'm saying there's 5 types of offering in a relationship and you're only ever looking at the one you give.
But it's also useful to think of it in that way. Like you're saying there's not scorecards, but I think it's useful because I think naturally we all have tendencies to want to be the hero or like want to be the person that like, oh, but I've done this and I've done that. And so actually looking at it in that way allows you to see where your strength is in your scorecard, but then realize hopefully where the other person is also contributing. So I think, but yeah, that's really a good way of putting it. I've never thought of it in that way.
No, I've thought about that so many times. I think whenever I've been in that position of like, oh, I'm doing so much for this relationship and I do, there are times when I feel like that. I'm like, oh, I'm doing this. And then you just stop and you're like, that's just stupid because there are so many levels you carry the relationship on.
Totally.
And I encourage everyone to do that with their partner is just really look at like, where are you carrying the relationship and where are they carrying the relationship? And I promise you that someone in your relationship is carrying something. And if they're not carrying anything, then sure, that's not a great relationship. But I think there are so many relationships where we miss what someone's doing.
I think that really stops you from, and actually I didn't think of it in that way, but whenever I do think about when I'm irritated at something or when I feel that way, thinking about it in your way, and sometimes I have thought about it in that way, it makes you really not be selfish. Like it makes you, a lot of the times, if you feel that way, you can end up stopping yourself from continuing to do that or continuing to be the person carrying this section. But I think when you think of it as these other 4 areas that other person may be helping in or carrying, it stops you from limiting yourself in what you can give and realizing that actually I could be giving everything in this category and that's okay because he's giving everything in this category and I don't want that category. So I'm good for him to handle that. And so, yeah, I think like that just reminds me of all the stuff I always get, like even when I put up cooking stuff or I'll get DMs just being like, you know, does Jay ever cook for you? And does Jay do this for you? And I'm like, no. And it doesn't irritate me at all because I don't like doing finance stuff. Like it may be such a cliche of like how, you know, I like being in the kitchen, but it's out of choice. Like I love being in the kitchen.
It's not because you're a woman.
It's not because I'm a woman. That's what I mean.
It's your passion as an individual.
And like sometimes when you, there's been times, remember when like some days I'll be like, like, you'll be like, oh, someone's come to our house and you're like, yeah, this is her work area. And some people don't even know what I'm doing. And I'm like, and we both laugh about it.
I always show people my office, which is where we are now.
Yeah.
And then when we go to the kitchen, I always say, and this is Radhi's office. And I don't mean it in a condescending or sexist way at all. It's actually her office.
Yeah.
Like that's where you experiment 100%. And that's where you create recipes and
But yeah, I just think it's really important that, because I do still always get people, but like, doesn't it annoy you that he doesn't cook? Doesn't it annoy you that he doesn't even want to try or make you a meal? And I'm like, no, because I really don't want to learn about this that he does and he manages. And I think it's so important, because you can get so wrapped up in what other people do for each other in relationships. And what other people are carrying for each other in relationships. And you see this one aspect of it and you're like, oh, well, why doesn't he carry that for me? And why doesn't she carry that for me or do that for me? And I think it's so important, because it can really, stop you from giving as much as you should be or want to be giving in a relationship, because you're putting up your own barriers and telling yourself that you shouldn't because he's not giving enough.
Exactly. All right, couple more questions.
Go on then.
This is a good one. When are you most scared to be vulnerable with your partner?
When are you most scared to be vulnerable?
Like, when are you scared of like being really honest and open? I'm thinking. Go on.
Sometimes when, like if like you've already given me advice on something and then like I'm kind of asking for like again, and I'm like really confused about something again, and you're really nice about it. But sometimes I feel like it's, when I know you're going to tell me something that I don't necessarily want to hear because you've already told me before, and I don't necessarily want you to give me the answer because I know you're right. That makes me really annoyed. So sometimes I don't feel like being vulnerable about how I'm feeling because I know the answer you're going to give and that I don't want to hear it.
So what do I need to be to help you be more vulnerable?
No, I think it's more me.
No, seriously. No,
I think it is very much so just me.
I think
it's me just wanting to be stubborn and not wanting you to be right.
That's like a recurring theme in this podcast right now.
I'm not stubborn.
I'm not allowed to say it. That's the thing. That's the rule I've learned.
Allowed to say it.
I'm not allowed to say Radhi's reflect. That's when I feel most vulnerable. It's like I'm not allowed to repeat something she said that makes me look good.
I'm like, I should really tidy up after myself or whatever. He's like, we should have. You're not allowed to tell me that. You're not allowed to tell me that I should tidy up. I'll tell myself if I'm going to tidy up after myself. Okay.
I feel most, I'm trying to think. I think the time I feel most vulnerable is like when I've spent a lot of money on something. Like, I feel like that's it, but I'm trying to think of it like.
Oh yeah, like when you tell me not to, make sure you just park properly and don't ruin the rims. I'm like, if I want to ruin the rims, I'll ruin the rims, okay?
No, but I don't feel vulnerable. I say that to you. I'm trying to think of something. When am I scared of being vulnerable with you? When am I scared of being vulnerable with you?
Wait, I don't understand the money thing.
No, like if I've just bought like a really expensive suit or something. Oh, you don't
want to tell me?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like if I've just bought an expensive suit for like an award ceremony.
Because he knows he's got a Gucci wife.
Yeah, so I get scared of being like, this is how much this suit costs because I'm wearing it.
And what do I always say? I'm like, that's okay, it's for your work.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. No, you're always nice about it.
In my mind, I'm like, it's for your work, it's fine.
No, you're nice about it. I think it's a silly thing just because of upbringing and raising and stuff. It's not you. It's not you at all. You never stop me. And then I'm trying to think of something more deep because that was a fun one that I'm just
with your health, like sometimes with health stuff.
Yes.
You know why? Because sometimes because I'm cooking for him, I take things quite personally. And so sometimes
but you try so hard.
No, I know.
Like but you don't, as in that's not.
But I feel like sometimes from you, I feel you get a little bit worried about saying if something has upset your stomach or if something hasn't made you feel right, whenever you have been in ups and downs with your health, or whenever I've given you something and I've suggested something and it hasn't worked. And I'm like, but why hasn't it worked? Like, I just don't understand. And I think it makes you vulnerable and I get quite defensive.
No, I don't think so. But you're trying so like, I don't think you get defensive. I think you try really hard. And so it's hard for you because you're trying to figure out so many ways to support me or help me.
Yeah.
And you don't want it to go wrong. And this is where it always comes back down to. It's like, when you trust the person loves you, you know that someone even being defensive is out of love.
Yeah,
in that scenario.
I am defensive though about it, to be honest.
No, but I think that comes from the fact that you're trying so hard.
Yeah, maybe, because I'm just like, oh, what? And it's hard when you're not in control of something and you're trying to be in control of it. But yeah, I feel like that's when I notice you are a little bit scared to be vulnerable, because you want to tell me, but you also don't want to upset me or like.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I never want you to feel like you're trying really hard and it's not working on something, because I don't think that's fair, because it's not necessarily your responsibility.
Or like when you want to play PlayStation and you pretend like it's like a work meeting with your partner.
And never say that's a work meeting.
And really you just want to play PlayStation together, but you're like, it's for work. And I'm like, yeah, it's just because you want to play.
Okay,
another one.
You're giving way too many.
What else can I think of?
Okay, so we're on to the final 2 segments, which is fill in the blank and final 5.
Fill in the blank and final 5.
Yeah, so fill in the blank is you fill in the blank at the end of the sentence. So we're both going to say it. All right?
Yeah.
Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I feel most supported by my partner when?
I feel like we did this last time.
Yeah, but not the same question.
I feel most supported by my partner when he brings me snacks when I don't even ask for them.
That never happens.
I know, that's why I just don't feel it right now. No, I feel most, that's my answer. You go.
I feel most supported by my partner when
I bring you cut up fruit.
No, I mean, that's a fun one, yeah. But when...
He likes his fruit cut up when he's eating it, like a little baby, because his mum used to do it for him when he was younger. And when he goes back every single time, his mum cuts his fruit up into a little bowl. And he has his little assortment of fruit bowl every day. And he's like, you know, I really love it when my fruit's cut up. So that's what I've been doing, cutting up fruit midday, halfway through my work day.
I haven't had it today, to be honest.
I'm sitting there cutting up fruit for this king over here. Cut up fruit makes him feel support.
My honest answer was going to be when my partner's present with me, like when I feel like you're really fully present. Okay.
And cut up fruit too.
Commitment means.
Oh, you're really crying.
I'm like, you put me into like, not crying. I mean,
Jay Shetty exposed.
Commitment means.
Commitment means. Commitment means like showing up in different ways for one another when the time is right.
That's a nice
knowing when it's your time to show up and knowing when it's their time to show up. Yeah.
I think commitment means mutual love, boundaries, agreements, connection. Like when it's mutually created. Like you create a plan together, you create boundaries together, you create expectations together. That's what commitment means. And then you honor those.
Totally.
Conflict can bring.
Well, let's just say I box, so conflict can bring.
God.
A few. I'm joking. I don't do that to him. Conflict can bring
deeper love.
I was going to say something like that.
No, you weren't.
I was.
No, you weren't. You chose boxing.
Conflict can bring boxing. Conflict can bring really good like makeup meals. Like whenever we make up, we can be like, oh, let's go get some like Coca-Cola Creamery ice cream.
Is that really what happens? That's why we haven't had it for so long, because we haven't had to make up.
We haven't really had many fights lately. Let's pick one now.
So
I've got plenty to say.
So that we can...
So then we can have Coca-Cola.
Final 5. So these are one word or one sentence answers.
Yeah, stop giving such long answers.
Okay. What's one thing you recently discovered about yourself that surprised you?
That I can commit to things and just maintain it.
I always knew this, but I guess I forgot it. I love exercising with sport. I just need to play more sport. I need to stop forcing myself. So that.
Lovely.
Okay. What about our relationship makes you feel powerful?
They were both on the same page like a lot of the time. I'm like, oh, I like this. And you're like, oh, me too. I'm like, oh, okay. Like even if small or big things, like we are very much so on the same page. And even if we're not, we're both kind of okay with coming to an agreement that we both like. That's mine.
Cool. My answer is you always trust me when the chips are down.
What was the question again?
Like what in our relationship makes you feel powerful?
Yeah, got you.
So for me, I what makes me feel powerful is
when we're all in.
You trust me even when things are not working out.
Yeah.
Externally. that makes me feel really confident and strong.
I'm glad.
Okay.
Just don't use my chips. Use your own.
What do you think our relationship will be like by our 50th anniversary?
Oh, Lord.
I didn't choose these.
What do I think?
I think the better question is, how will we celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary?
My mind's always like, with my family, with our family. We'd have a really nice 50th celebration with the whole family all together on holiday somewhere.
Sounds great.
Just letting you know.
That's my answer. Sounds great.
His would be like, just us two on a beach with a tennis court and, and cut fruit.
I haven't had it today.
Next.
All right, 2 last questions. What about your partner have you grown to love that you initially disliked?
I can't think of anything.
Good.
You go first. No, I can't think of many things I dislike. I'm just trying to think of what I now like about you.
I think it was your I've just realized that, I think it was what I said earlier, like your lack of organization or whatever. Like initially that really irked me. And then now I'm just like, but that's what lets you be spontaneous. Like that's what lets your ever freshness come out. And if you became all of that thing, then you can't, not saying that you can't be organized, like you are organized now and you have become, but I mean, if you became an organizational rigid beast, then you lose that.
Yeah.
You lose part of that. So
I think mine for you is probably just like your general way of thinking was not something that I was used to.
That's true. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Whether it was the quality versus quantity amount of time, because I was not used to that. Whether it was, your just general way of thinking where I used to be like, oh, well, maybe I don't want to do that. But then I realized actually is a really good way of thinking. And even though it used to like scare me to think like that, because I felt like I was getting rid of a lot of my old like habits and ways of thinking. Now I've actually become quite fond of it.
Okay.
Next.
I love that. Okay, 5th and final question of the whole interview. What's the funniest thing that's happened to both of you?
The funniest thing that's ever happened to both of us?
I was going to say
that. Go on. What were you going to say?
A few weeks or months ago, someone put us up on this Instagram page called Sibling Revelry. And what this page does is that it puts up pictures of siblings or couples and asks people to guess
vote whether they're siblings or couples.
And so they posted a picture of us, and I think 60% said siblings and 40% said couple, probably 40% who know who we are. And it's really funny because all the awkward pictures on that page
are siblings. Yeah.
So that's probably one of the funniest things that's ever happened.
Really funny. That was a good laugh. That was good laugh.
I can think of another one too.
Go on.
I remember when we were traveling to someone's birthday or something when we first started dating and we got lost in the middle.
That's what I was going to say.
No way, really?
That's literally where I went back to.
Go on.
No, I was thinking of when we were, that's what it was. We were going somewhere and it was like countryside. And then somehow we drove into like a barn or like field area and I was so scared. And that was the first time that I was in a very scary situation with you. And it was the time I realized like how you will always be and always have been since that like calm. My dad has always been this person for me. So it was so cool because you literally took on that role of like, you were so calm. You're so like, even when you're scared.
I was so scared.
Even when I was young, even if my dad was so scared, he would never ever show he was scared and he'd always have me. Like I would never feel scared because he was never scared. And you literally I got a glimpse of that with you and I was like, oh my gosh.
I was so scared. I was so scared.
But you did so good that day. So yeah, that was funny. Funny now, not funny then.
Yeah.
And that's it, everyone. Quick 5. Done.
Final 5.
Final 5.
As always.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks so much for all the amazing questions. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure you go and subscribe to Radhi's YouTube channel. Follow her on Instagram.
Please do, so I can bug you and love you.
Yeah, go and check out all her new videos. She's posting every single week.
I am.
And they're the most fun. She's my favorite YouTuber. Turn the little notifications on. And Radhi, thank you for always being our annual special guest.
Next time, I think I expect some sort of a prize.
Okay.
Or a gift.
Cool.
Or a trophy.
Okay.
Or snacks.
Okay.
I'll think one of the above.
Okay.
But yes, thank you. It was so wonderful. And really thought the questions were great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I think we went really deep with, we talked about doubts. We talked about insecurities, vulnerability.
Cut fruit.
All right, that's it, guys. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. See you soon. Next time on Jay Shetty on purpose podcast. No, really, that's it.
Is that your mic drop?
Yeah, you can drop it.
Don't. If you want even more videos just like this one, make sure you subscribe and click on the boxes over here. I'm also excited to let you know that you can now get my book, Think Like a Monk, from thinklikeamonkbook.com. Check below in the description to make sure you order today.
Having treated many drug addicts through the years, is the drug addicts tell you initially the drugs made them feel awesome, and then they use the drugs to prevent the depression. So just so they would attempt to feel normal, but then, you know, the addiction cycle kicked in and they were hooked.
You know how passionate I am about sitting down with deep experts, people who can broaden and open my mind and yours, people that can teach me things that I've never thought about and that I can share with you as well. And today's guest will definitely not disappoint. He's a clinical neuroscientist, a professor, a psychotherapist, and he's a 10 times New York Times best-selling author. His name is Dr. Daniel G. Amen, and today we're talking about his new book, Feel Better Fast and Make It Last, Unlocking Your Brain's Healing Potential to Overcome Negativity, Anxiety, Anger, Stress, and Trauma. So if you like the sound of what we're discussing today, make sure you go out onto Amazon, go out to Barnes & Noble, and grab the book. Daniel, thank you so much for being here.
Jay, it's just such a pleasure.
No, the pleasure's all mine. I was saying to you just briefly when we were speaking before that this is what I crave in life, is to sit down with someone who has dedicated their life and work and their purpose to such a deep and noble cause. And to be able to sit with you is a complete honor for me. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And yeah, this book, when I was diving into it and the conversation we've just had, I instantly had so many questions, because for me, the brain's the most important thing for us to talk about right now, especially right now. And that's the question I wanted to start with you with is, why did you choose the brain throughout all your work as being such a big area of focus?
Well, it runs everything. But when I went to medical school, I wanted to be a pediatrician because I adore children. And when I was a second-year medical student, I'd just gotten married, and my wife tried to kill herself, and I was horrified, and I was traumatized. And I took her to see a wonderful psychiatrist, and I came to realize if he helped her, which he did, it wouldn't just help her, that it would help me, it would help our children, it would help our grandchildren. And so nearly 40 years ago, I decided to be a psychiatrist, and I have loved it every single day. But I joined the only medical profession that never looks at the organ it treats. And before I went to medical school, I was in the Army. I was an infantry medic, and I got myself retrained as an X-ray technician and developed a passion for imaging. And our professors used to always say, how do you know unless you look? How do you know unless you look? And now I'm a psychiatrist, and we're not looking. And I'm an agitator. My father, growing up, he called me a maverick, and to him that was not a good thing. But I got it from him. His favorite words growing up, when I was growing up, the first favorite word was bullshit, and the second, his favorite word was no. Everything was bullshit or no. So obviously I got it from him. And I loved being a psychiatrist, but I'm like, well, why don't we look at the brain? And because obviously the brain is our organ. The brain, you know, is involved in how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you get along with other people. It's the organ of intelligence, creativity, and every single decision you make. And with my X-ray background, I'm like, we should look. And so in the late 1980s, I started looking at the brain with a study called quantitative EEG. And it was fascinating that I could see underlying patterns for things like depression and ADHD and autism. But in 1991, I went to a lecture on brain SPECT imaging. SPECT is a nuclear medicine study that looks at blood flow and activity, and it rocked my world. Let me take a little detour.
Please.
So how do addictions start? Let's take gambling addiction. Addictions start with a big win, right? Either cocaine, you're like, whoa, I've never felt like that before. I want to feel like that again. Or with gambling, you win the whole jackpot and dopamine floods the pleasure centers of your brain. And you're like, oh, whoa, I want that again. Well, I'd been a psychiatrist for nearly 10 years when I ordered my first SPECT scan. My first 10 cases were big wins because I went into this profession to get people well, because I knew the pain of when you're not well, from a suicide attempt from my first wife, and then the level of emotional and personal pain that brought to me.
Of course.
And so as patients got better, because I had more information, I'm like, I have to do this again. Well, today we have 150,000 scans that we've done on patients from 120 countries. So I'm completely addicted. Because, if you don't look, you don't know. And we need to stop lying about that. But wholesale across the US, really across the world, you go to your doctor, you say, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I can't sleep, I have temper problems, I'm obsessiveness. And within a 20-minute office visit, you leave with prescriptions for anxiety, depression, sleep, and that's insane. When no one has looked at your brain, so you don't know, does it work too hard or not hard enough? Is it toxic from drug abuse or from mold in your home? Or is it traumatic because you played a contact sport and it damaged your frontal lobes? And so I have been on this crusade, really, to change psychiatry, because we should act like our other medical colleagues and look at what we do before we do it. But along the way, I learned big lessons, like first do no harm, that some of our medications are actually not that great for you, that they're natural ways to heal the brain. And oh, by the way, you got to get your heart right. You got to get your gut right. You got to get your kidneys right. You got to get your liver right in order for your brain to be right, because when your brain works right, you work right.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more. And it was actually fascinating. Just earlier this week, I was speaking to Naveen Jain on the podcast as well. And I don't know if you've come across Naveen, etc. I should definitely connect you both. He feels very closely with the way you do around having a crusade around modern medicine and what's supplied and how it's just prescribed to anyone and everyone without actually knowing anyone's gut, brain, or any other health. So I should definitely connect you. You've just sparked an idea. But I want to ask you, before we dive into, and I know everyone listening and watching, you're probably thinking like I am, oh my God, we cannot wait for this because you can give us so many practical tips. But before we do that, I want to ask you more of a conscious question around what is the difference between the brain and the mind? And what are the mistakes we make when talking about the mind versus understanding the brain?
The mind comes from the brain. If your brain is damaged, it damages your mind. And without a brain, you don't have a mind. Now, you can train the brain so that you have a healthier mind, but let me just tell you a story, since I know that's what you love is stories.
Absolutely.
Storytelling. There was this couple that were in marital therapy. And they went for 3 years, spent about $20,000, and at the end, the therapist flunked them, told them to get divorced. And they were very unhappy that they had failed, and so they got mad at the therapist, and the therapist said, well, I know a doctor in Costa Mesa, California, that takes care of really difficult people. You should go see him. And, as part of our process, we scan people. We do SPECT. And the wife had a pretty healthy brain. The husband had a moth-eaten brain. It was really low in activity. It's a pattern we usually see with alcoholism or drug abuse. But in his history, he said he never used drugs and he didn't drink. Now, the first thing you learn about drug addicts is they lie. So in front of his wife, I'm like, well, is that true? You don't drink and you've never done drugs. And he said, Dr. Amen, that's not my problem. I've never drank and I've never done drugs. And then I looked to his wife and I said, is he telling me the truth? And she said, oh, yes, Dr. Amen, he doesn't drink. As far as I know, he's never done drugs. He's just an asshole. And I started laughing.
Can you imagine that?
But in my head, I'm like, why does his brain look so bad? And so I thought about, well, what are the different options? Drugs, alcohol? Well, probably not if your wife who doesn't like you says no. An environmental toxin, anoxia, lack of oxygen, an infection, severe anemia or hormone disruptions. And so my next question to him is, where do you work? He said, I work in a furniture factory. I said, what do you do? He said, I finish furniture all day long. He was doing drugs. He was doing the worst drug of abuse, which is inhaling organic solvents. And I'm like, do you wear a mask? He said, no, they tell me I should. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't say it because I have good frontal lobe function. I'm thinking that is not the sign of intelligent life. I'm like, is there ventilation? He said, often not. It's hot. I'm sweaty. And I looked to his wife and I said, so when did he become an asshole? And she said, what do you mean? I said, did you marry him that way? Do you have father issues you're trying to work out? And she said, no. When we dated and for the first 3 years, he was great. It was about 5 years ago. And then the light went on in her head. About the time he got this job, his behavior started to change. Do you think it could be related? Of course it could be related. And I love this shift. That's what the scans do. They shift from he's an asshole. And actually, his therapist gave him that same diagnosis. Now, you can't write asshole in the chart.
Absolutely.
So what you write is mixed personality disorder with narcissistic and antisocial features. What's that? You're an asshole, right? It's not a billing code, right? And that shift was so important because play this out with me. He's angry. He's depressed. He's mad and he's sad. If they did what the therapist recommended, which was get divorced, now it's going to be like his skin is being ripped off
scales.
because this is the love of his life. He just can't act in a consistent way. What is the organ of acting? It's your brain, right? And his brain is damaged. And so if they would have gotten divorced, he very well could have killed himself. And as many people do, he also could have killed his wife and his children, right? So this is the consequence of not looking. But once we looked, she shifted and she's like, do you mean in his attempt to be a good husband, going to work, supporting the family, that he's being poisoned and that he's sick and he's not bad? Exactly. And so we took him out of work, worked on rehabilitating his brain, which is one of my favorite things to do, is taking bad brains and making them better. And years later, they're still married. They love each other. He's much better. And she's not as stressed because when you live with someone whose brain is damaged, you become damaged as well.
Absolutely. Wow, that's incredible. So I guess my follow-up question to that is, how many of us are living with someone who has a damaged brain? How many of us, me sitting right here, like how many of us have a brain that is somewhat damaged, and what are the mistakes we make when we're trying to heal that in our everyday life?
And the first mistake we make is we don't care about it, that we don't love it. So when I started doing SPECT in 1991, I scanned everybody I knew. I scanned my sisters. I have 5 of them. Pray for me.
I want you to scan me one day.
I want to.
Yeah, I'd love that.
I scanned my mom, and she had, at 60, a perfect brain. In fact, she was our resident model of a perfect brain. And it fit
she must have loved that.
It fit the story of her life. Right. Even at 87, she has 48 grandchildren, great-grandchildren. She knows everybody's birthday. She's everybody's best friend. She's just a phenomenal human being. And then I scanned my brain, and I didn't like it because I played football in high school, and I had meningitis when I was a young soldier. And that just really pissed me off, that my 60-year-old mother had a better looking brain than I did. And so I developed a concept then called brain envy. I wanted a better brain. I wanted a brain that looked like hers. And, as a psychiatrist, or as a trained psychiatrist, you have to, of course, read Freud. And he had this concept of penis envy. And
Absolutely,
in 40 years, I've not seen one case. The only time I've seen a case of it is when I was on Broadway a few weeks ago, and at intermission I saw the long line at the women's bathroom and no line at the men's, and I go, penis envy, there it is right there. But, it's really, the only organ where size matters is your brain. It's the 3 pounds of fat between your ears. So the first thing you have to do if you want a better life is you have to start wanting a better brain. And that is critical, because that leads, I know you want, for your listeners and viewers, tips. We call them tiny habits. We work with the Stanford Persuasive Tech Lab on how people change. And they make small incremental changes that can make huge differences over time. So the first tiny habit we'll talk about, and I actually think this is the most important one, it's whatever you do, whatever you say, whatever you eat, whatever you do, it takes 3 seconds. You just ask yourself, is this good for my brain or bad for it? And if you can answer that question with intelligence and love, because you do the right thing not because you should, but because you love yourself. Ultimately, doing the right thing is the ultimate act of love. It just works. Is this good for my brain or bad for it? And if it's bad for it, I don't do it if I care about myself.
You've ruined chocolate for me forever now.
No, chocolate's great for your brain.
It is, yeah.
And we actually make sugar-free, dairy-free chocolate.
Some
and
vegan,
we make
so
a
that fits.
chocolate coconut bar. And they're phenomenal. And what they really are because that's not our primary business, it's a metaphor for there is no suffering in getting well. Plus, I am named after my grandfather, who was a candy maker. I mean, that was his job.
Wow.
But he died early because he was also fat and had heart disease.
Wow.
And I'm not fat and I don't have heart disease because I know it's a risk for me. And I don't give in to the behavior making it likely to be so. But you don't have to give up chocolate. In fact, I don't know if you're like me, but I'm very much a creature of habit. And
me too.
So, I have maybe 30 foods I eat.
Yeah.
And I only want them to love me back. So I only want to be in love with someone or something that loves me back.
Isn't that all of us?
So I don't know if you've ever been in a bad relationship.
I have.
I mean, I
yes.
got to meet your beautiful wife, and one day I hope you meet mine, and I adore her. But I've been in bad relationships.
Me too.
And I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not. And I'm damn sure not doing it with food.
Yeah.
That's too often people say, I love bread, or I love pasta, I love brownies, in fact, I had one woman, we should talk about the Daniel Plan at some point. It's this massive program I did at Saddleback Church. Now thousands of churches around the world do it. And one of the pastor's wives, after she heard me talk, she said, after I heard you, I told my husband I'd rather get Alzheimer's disease than give up sugar.
Wow.
And I'm like, did you date the bad boys in high school? Because that's like a seriously bad relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
That's terrible, yeah. So let's start talking about that kind of rehabilitation process. And in the book, you obviously have your incredible acronym. And I picked out some of the letters that I wanted to focus in on. And one of my big ones is when you talk about the rational mind. Now, I know that we are prone to making irrational decisions and choices all the time. We do it every single day, as far as I know, and as far as my reading has gone. And I wonder why we do that, why we constantly choose to make irrational decisions, and how we start to overcome that.
So in the book, there's this cool mnemonic, Brain Excel. And it starts by getting your brain right, because your rational mind is better when you do that. And the rational mind is really about training your brain and training your mind to help you rather than hurt you. So often people are just brutalized by the thoughts that go through their heads. And many years ago, at a really hard day at work, I had seen 4 suicidal patients, and that's hard because you feel responsible for them, but you actually don't have full responsibility. I saw 2 couples who hated each other. I saw 2 teenagers who had run away from home. And at the end of the day, I'm feeling pretty stressed. And I walked into my house, and my wife and kids were gone, but there was an ant infestation in my house, in my kitchen, and I'm furious. And as I'm wiping up what felt like thousands of ants, when you go to medical school, you have to learn 50,000 new terms your first year. And so you get good at coming up with acronyms and mnemonics. And so I'm always playing with words.
Yeah.
And as I'm wiping up the ants, I'm thinking, oh, automatic negative thoughts. My patients are infested with ants. And I need to teach them to eradicate the ants. And so the next day at work, I brought a can of ant spray and I put it on the coffee table. And I'm like, I'm going to show you how to get rid of the ants. And over time, that morphed into an anteater and an ant puppet, because I also see children. And I taught them how to do it. And it's one of the most important things that I teach anybody how to do. You don't have to believe every stupid thing you think. And if you can learn to tell yourself the truth, because this is not positive thinking. I am not a fan of positive thinking.
I agree.
Positive thinking means, I can go a couple of blocks to Jack in the Box and get 4 of their big desserts, and it won't have a negative impact on my life.
And it will.
Or positive thinking is I can, fool around on my phone until 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's not going to have a negative impact on me the next day. People who have low levels of anxiety go to jail, and they die early. There's actually a cool longevity study out of Stanford where they looked at 1,548 10-year-old children in 1921, and then researchers followed them for 90 years, looking at what goes with health, success, and longevity. And the don't worry, be happy people died the earliest from accidents and preventable illnesses. The people who live the longest, they're conscientious. They told themselves the truth. I have taxes to pay. I better pay them or I'm going to be in trouble. Or I said I'm going to show up at 2 o'clock. I show up at 2 o'clock. So it's conscientiousness, which is really a prefrontal cortex function, right? So you have to have your brain right. But here's the tiny habit. Whenever you feel sad or mad or nervous or out of control, write down what you're thinking. And then ask yourself, is it true? So those are these 3 little words I love. And I have a process that I talk about in the book. So a bad thought, like today is going to be hard. Is that true? Well, I don't know. And then the second question is that absolutely true? No. How do I feel when I believe the thought? Awful. Who would I be without the thought? Free. Take the original thought, turn it to its opposite. And what you find, the opposite of what's torturing you is usually true. So it just blows your mind. But if you can learn to be disciplined about questioning your own thoughts, and I got this technique from my friend Byron Katie. She wrote a brilliant book called Loving What Is.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's sort of a combination of cognitive therapy and Buddhism. And I love it. Whenever I'm off or I'm sad or I'm stressed, I'll read portions of Loving What Is or listening to it because she read it and she has a beautiful voice. And it's training your mind to help you rather than hurt you. Another rational mind technique
Yeah, please.
is start every day with today is going to be a great day. Why? Because your unconscious mind will find why it's going to be a great day. We are programmed through our evolutionary biology to wake up in fear because our ancestors woke up and the fear was real. Something was going to eat them. Something wanted to hurt them. And so you wake up anxious, but now that's not true for most of us. And if you start with today is going to be a great day, your unconscious mind then begins to find, well, why is it going to be a great day? And for families, it's a great ritual. Hey, honey, today's going to be a great day. And then you begin in your mind to find why it's going to be a great day. It's so easy to find why it's going to be a bad day. At the end of the day, I actually do this as a ritual, both at dinner and then when I put myself to sleep, is what went well today. And we focus on what went well. Now, we also want to focus on, well, what can I learn from today? What could I have done better? Because we're always striving to grow. But when I put myself to sleep at night, I'll say a prayer, and then I'll just go back through my day, what went well, because it actually sets my dreams up to be more positive than negative. Because dreams, there's a purpose for them. It's really we're consolidating memories from what happened that day. And sometimes because you didn't consolidate them from the past, they get infected by negativity. So super simple, tiny habits that can make a big difference.
Yeah, that's a great tiny habit. I think building that, and this is what we find so often, even in the work that I do, that people don't have a conversation with themselves that is conscious. They have an unconscious or subconscious conversation with themselves, which is naturally taking down that negative rabbit hole or living out the pattern that they've built up for so many years or decades or whatever it may be. But I don't know how many people are having a conscious, intentional conversation with themselves to dive deeper into a thought, a belief, a pattern.
And they've never been taught
Absolutely,
how to do
absolutely.
it. I have a children's book that's relatively new, I love, called Captain Snout and the Superpower Questions. It basically teaches kids to think about what they think about and to not believe every stupid thing they think. And
I love that.
4-year-olds can do this. So one quick story.
Yeah, please.
Love
your stories.
My last one, I have 4 children, and Chloe's 15, and she's got red hair like her mother. And when she's 4, she announces to her mother that she's going to get her ears pierced that day. And you don't announce things to Tana. And Tana said no, that they didn't have time, and she had to wait until she was 5. And Chloe said, I can't wait till I'm 5, bursts into tears, drama, runs into my office, climbs on my lap. She's just crying her eyes out, little lips going. And I'm like, what's the matter? And she said, Mommy said I can't get my ears pierced till I'm 5. I'm like, okay, what's the matter? I can't wait until I'm 5. I'm like, is that true? Yes. Is it absolutely true? What do you mean? Are you going to die if you don't? And no lie, she rolled her eyes at me. I didn't think that was going to happen till 12. Of course not. How do you feel when you believe the thought you can't wait? I'm mad and I'm sad and my ears aren't cute. Okay. Who would you be if you didn't have that thought? 4 years old, free. Wow. So what's the opposite of I can't wait? What do you mean? I said, opposites. We just read a book on opposites, tall and small and fat and skinny. I can wait until I'm 5. And then she got off my lap and went and played with the dog. We could have had drama all day long over the years, or we could just teach ourselves we don't have to believe every stupid thing we think.
Wow, I love that. And that's incredible. The children's book, if you have kids, there you go. What was the name of the children's book again?
Captain Snout.
Captain
and the
Snout.
Superpower Question.
That's brilliant. I love that. That's incredible. And it's teaching kids how to think about what they think about, That's brilliant. That's amazing. That's something we could all use too. We should start there before this. It would be such a useful technique. That's amazing.
Well, I get the
love
parents to read it to the children so the parents will get the idea.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I think you're spot on that we've never been taught these things. We can't expect, if anyone's listening and watching right now, we can't expect to know these things. And so we have to look at alternative forms of educating ourselves. It's the only way. It's absolutely the only way. Now, the next in your mnemonic is about attachment. And this one fascinates me a lot because when I lived as a monk, we focused so much on detachment. And detachment was
Yeah,
such
I've never got that quite down.
Yeah.
Because I'm totally attached to my wife, to my work, how the book does. I want to not be attached to how the book does, but I totally am.
Right.
And
Well, thank you for being honest with us and yourself.
I've written 13 public television specials. They've aired 100,000 times across North America. And I'm sort of attached to how they turn out. But attachment causes suffering. And so the idea, what I've seen as a psychiatrist, is when relationships break, that causes intense emotional pain. So if we know that's true, that we are a pair bonded species, that we are a relational species, we're wired that way, well, you need to know how to take care of them. And so based on 40 years of helping couples and helping families and helping businesses, it's, well, what are the ingredients? And there's a cool mnemonic for attachments. It's called relating. It's the R is you're responsible for it. So you're 100% responsible for that relationship. What is it you can do today to make it better? E is empathy, seeing things from the other person's point of view, which is a brain function. And autistic kids actually have damage in the mirror neuron system of the brain, which is the part that allows me to see things from your point of view. L is listening, something parents are generally not very good at. And so I teach them this technique called active listening, so powerful. A is assertiveness. T is time, actual physical time. I is inquire into the negative thoughts you have. So it's about inquiry. N is notice what you like more than what you don't. How do they train penguins at SeaWorld? They're not beating them. They're not noticing the negative. They notice what they like. That's how you shape behavior. And G is grace and forgiveness. And there's a technique on forgiveness that's just so powerful. Because, when you hold on to hurts, the person you're poisoning the most is yourself.
And how do we do that now? I know a lot of the people that watch and consume my work really love hearing my perspectives on relationships and dating, because online dating has completely changed my generation's approach to love and relationships and modern romance. And on top of all of that, we see this challenge with attachment and avoidance consistently. We have people who are scared of getting attached because they're scared of having their heart broken, so they avoid and play that avoidant role in a relationship. And there are those that go in full throttle and get attached and then get their heart broken. What would be your advice in terms of the best brain approach to building a healthy relationship?
Well, it's one, get your brain right. I wrote another book called The Brain in Love. And chapter 6 is how to have a first date from a neuroscience perspective.
Oh, I love
how
this.
You can screen the other person.
I'm going to have to make a video about
if
this.
You're going to be, if this person's going to be a good partner or not a good
Can you walk us
partner.
through it? Bits of it that you can remember?
So it's pay attention, be a good listener, learn their family story, because they'll tell you about the history of drug and alcohol abuse or physical abuse, violence. Look for attachments and then watch their habits and know going into it, new love is a drug. New love works on the nucleus accumbens, or the pleasure centers of your brain, and it works just like cocaine. So you have to be suspicious of new love, because you're not going to see things clearly for probably 3 or 4 months. And so just know that and be ready for it.
And when people are telling you about their family history, which I think is such a great example, I couldn't agree more with you. When people are telling you about their family history, how is that corresponding, or what parallels are drawn between that and then their current habits? What are the kind of things that you're sensing? So let's say someone had a childhood where their parents were always arguing or not getting along. How is that seen trends pattern-wise to affect people today?
Well, people do what their parents did, not how they told them how to be.
Yeah. Yes.
And so you just are going to, if they don't work on it, then that's going to be a source of potential pain. And, if you're going to have babies together, you really want to understand the history because, things do tend to run in families. Now, if you date one of my children for more than 4 months, I scan you. I'm not kidding about this. It's sort of like Meet the Parents, but worse.
But cooler. This is crazy. I love this. And do you have a scanner at home? Like, is there a special room?
I go, you haven't seen the clinic. Don't you want to see the clinic? And, my oldest daughter married someone whose mother had paranoid schizophrenia and whose father killed himself. Now, did that mean I didn't want her to marry him? No. But if he had vulnerabilities, I wanted to make sure he was open to taking care of them. And he was. And he and I actually, he's a professor at Corbin College now, and we wrote an online high school course called Brain Thrive by 25, where we teach kids to fall in love with their brain and how to take care of their brain. So that early scan set up sort of a lifelong partnership for us. In fact, I told you about my first wife, and she tried to kill herself. I got divorced about 18 years ago. And I told myself, if I ever got married again, I'm scanning her before we go to the next level. And when I met Tana, I just loved her right away. And I knew that was cocaine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 2 weeks after I met her, I'm like, you haven't seen the clinic. Do you want to see the clinic? And she was game because she's a neurosurgical ICU nurse and she had a great brain. But by putting brain health toward the center of our relationship, it really helps us.
100%.
Right? And she grew up in some serious craziness, right? So I'm not advocating looking for the perfect person because there are very few of them. But I knew with her history that she could really deal with a little bit of EMDR. It's a psychotherapy for past trauma. And it was so helpful to her. And we never fight with each other.
Wow.
And it's awesome. But, if you go out on a first date with somebody and they have 3 drinks to manage their anxiety, that's a bad sign. I know that was sort of in the new movie A Star Is Born. That was, part of it. But that just means you're going to suffer. I'm not a fan of alcohol and marijuana just because of what I've seen them do to the brain.
Yeah, I'd love to dive into that actually. And before we do, I was going to say the reason why I'm finding this so fascinating is so many of these were subconsciously my ways of observing my relationship to be with my wife right now, but I never even knew about it from this perspective. So one of the first things I asked my wife about was her family and her relationships with her family. And my wife comes from an incredible family. Her parents are extremely respectful to each other, have a wonderful relationship. My wife has an incredible relationship with her father, and I knew that was going to play into our relationship. And these were almost truths that I was looking for unknowingly without knowing that there was science to back it up. So for me, it's
right, because chronic fighting is a sign that something's not right in their brains.
Yeah.
Right? Because ultimately you marry someone who becomes your best friend or your worst enemy. And if you're not acting respectfully, sometimes it's because the brain doesn't work hard enough and people become conflict driven as a way to turn it back on. They don't know it. It's not conscious. It's Pavlovian. Other times their brain has an OCD pattern, obsessive compulsive pattern. And if things don't go their way, they can't stand it. And so in order for you to get them to do what you want, you actually have to tell them the opposite of it. And it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But you can balance the brain. And I did a study once called the Couples from Hell study.
Okay.
We studied 500 couples who failed marital therapy and wanted to be together. And 85% of them, one or both of them, were struggling, right? I mean, if people just buy this really super simple idea, your brain is involved in everything you do, how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you interact, then why wouldn't a marital therapist, the first thing he or she should do is scan their brain and go, is it healthy? Does it work too hard? How can I balance that? But no marital therapy program teaches anything about the brain. They're all teaching these outdated methods of better communication and problem solving. But if you don't have a computer that'll run the software program, it's not going to work.
Wow. So we're actually not dealing with the root of the issue at all.
We're not dealing with it at all. And the issue is always in those four circles, right? There's a biology, a psychology. And so the Brain Excel format, B is biology, the rational mind is psychology, attachments is the social circle, and I, or inspiration, is the spiritual circle. It's why are you here? Why do you care? And we are wearing out our pleasure centers in the brain by constantly getting these little dopamine hits from our cell phones, from social media, from people screaming at each other on television. And we're wearing out our pleasure centers, which is why depression is so high in our country now.
Let's dive into that a bit more. I've boxed the marijuana and alcohol conversation, which I really want to get onto. I've shelved it for now. We'll bring it back out in a bit. But this is so important, because I think too many people are talking about this and they may not have the actual expertise and the insight that you do. What do you mean by our pleasure centers being worn out? What does that actually mean? And how is that leading to depression? How is that leading to the challenges we see in society?
So you have these two areas deep in your brain. They're part of a big group of cells called the basal ganglia, and within them are called the nucleus accumbens. And when you push on them, and you push on them with the neurotransmitter dopamine, you feel good, sort of like the jackpot that I said when I first started doing scans. It's like, I love this. I love it when people get well. I have meaning. I have purpose. My education is working to benefit these people. Well, cocaine does that too. Oh, I love that. Pornography can do it. A scary movie can do it. Jumping out of an airplane can do it. And the more you do it, the more it begins to wear out your pleasure centers. So it takes more and more in order to get the same response. And so in Feel Better Fast and Make It Last, I talk about the dopamine dump versus the dopamine drip, right? So you want to drip dopamine onto your nucleus accumbens, so that way it keeps them stimulated and happy, as opposed to the dump, the scary movie, pornography, cocaine. Because if you hit them too often, and interestingly, people who are obese, their nucleus accumbens doesn't react like other people. It's sluggish. It's slow to react than if you're at a healthy weight, because those really high calorie, high sugar, high fat foods, when it hits it over and over with dopamine, it just begins to wear them out.
Wow.
So you need more and more to feel anything at all. And, having treated many drug addicts through the years, is the drug addicts tell you initially the drugs made them feel awesome. And then they use the drugs to prevent the depression. So just so they would attempt to feel normal. But then, the addiction cycle kicked in and they were hooked. So you want to always protect your pleasure centers. And with social media, I did a show with Dr. Oz on Tinder, and swipe left, swipe right. And for the person who was getting lots of positive responses, his brain actually looked happier. But many of the other ones, their brain started to look depressed when they weren't getting the response they had hoped for.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. I saw that. I highly recommend it. You can go and check it out with Dr. Oz and Dr. Amen. I highly recommend it. It was brilliant. and it's so fun to see it, because what's the difference then between the dopamine dump, the dopamine drip, and then purpose. Because with you having said what you said, that when you were able to heal people or you saw that breakthrough, we also get it. When I live my purpose and I create some content or I see a breakthrough for someone through the work that I'm doing, what's then the difference between that?
You're getting this constant drip that keeps your pleasure centers healthy.
Right.
Plus, you're not doing anything that's damaging them. I mean, it can keep it going on and on. But say, for example, you're a rock star and you get the high from being on stage over and over again. You don't feel right because too much dopamine has hit your nucleus accumbens. And I have a prayer for the young stars I see. It's, dear God, please don't allow me to be famous before my frontal lobes have developed. And your frontal lobes really don't develop in girls until they're about 25 and in boys until they're about 28. So you see why all these young stars get into so much trouble, because they don't have the forethought, the judgment, the impulse control. It's all prefrontal cortex stuff to manage their nucleus accumbens. And so there's think of it as the elephant in the rider. So your pleasure center is really the elephant. I mean, it drives you toward whatever behavior. The prefrontal cortex is the rider, and it directs you. So when the rider is inefficient or ineffective, or it's not there, it just ruins your life. So you need a strong prefrontal cortex to break your pleasure centers, or you end up doing all sorts of completely stupid things.
Wow, that's amazing. So, and for women it's 25 on average, men it's 28. That sums up so much.
So I never recommend, would never let my children go too far from home to go to college, because they're right in the middle of massive brain development. The most important brain development occurs between about 15 and 25. And people think, oh, it's all from 0 to 3.
Yeah, wow.
And it's like your prefrontal cortex is getting myelinated, which means it's really developing from 15 to 25.
Yeah, the reason why this is so current for me right now is I've been speaking a lot with the social media platforms of YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, because even a lot of creators who are extremely young, most of them younger than me too, as a creator myself, a lot of creators are going through burnout and are going through feelings of depression and anxiety because of having had A, rocketed, accelerated fame early on in life, and B, having to keep up with the pace of social media as a creator to continue to create at that level.
So their pleasure centers are worn out when they don't have frontal lobes to modulate it. But what you did, I mean, you spent time meditating and really developing your brain. We haven't talked about that, but I've actually published 3 studies on a Kundalini yoga form of meditation called Kirtan Kriya.
Yeah.
And it activated the prefrontal cortex and it calmed down the limbic or the emotional brain. So it had that very nice balancing effect, and it's like a 12-minute meditation, right? This isn't hard. Or my favorite meditation, a loving kindness meditation, developing practices to balance your brain. It should just be part of school. But unfortunately, school really hasn't been redesigned in 110 years. And I often think of Paul Simon's song, Kodachrome, which starts off with, when I think back on all the crap I learned in high school, it's a wonder I can think at all. And that's why we developed our high school course, because come on, it's like, teach them practical things like how to manage the organ that's going to run everything in their life.
Absolutely. And then, okay, now you've got me thinking of a million things. The next thing was around that. So the research that you've done on meditation and the brain, what are the specifics? So you say at Kirtan Kriya there of Kundalini Yoga. What were a bit more detail around the direct impacts of that meditation on the brain? What was actually happening?
So we did 3 studies on it. And the first study, what we found, activation of the prefrontal cortex. And we're not the only one. They've done a lot of studies at the University of Wisconsin. And calming of the emotional brain. It also dropped activity in the parietal lobes. That's a talk back part of your brain. That's sort of where you sense space and time. So during that time, the 12 minutes seems like it actually went by in about 3. So things become timeless. And then we did another study at the University of Pennsylvania and found that people who did it for 8 weeks, 2 months, had stronger resting frontal lobe function. And that's like the holy grail of brain science. Is if you want anything, you want big fat frontal lobes, because that's what makes us human. 30% of the human brain is the prefrontal cortex, 11% of the chimpanzee brain, 7% of your dog's brain, 3% of the cat's brain, right? This is the part of us that makes us human, and it's called the executive part of the brain because it's about focus and forethought and judgment and impulse control and organization, planning, empathy, learning from the mistakes you make. So it's where you play chess. It's where you're not just thinking about the moment, oh, I can take your rook. It's where you're thinking 5 steps ahead, which is how we have survived as a species. We don't have to be instinct like the squirrel. We can plan not just for this winter, but for 10 forward. And when your prefrontal cortex is damaged, you're just in the moment. And people go, oh, but I want to be, and a lot of people love the book, The Power of Now. And I actually love the book, but I hate the title.
Right.
Because if you're always in the power of now, you're screwed. Because you need to be now and later, which is why the title of the book, Feel Better Fast and Make It Last, is so important. People are too into feel better now, but not later.
Yeah, and let's dive into that too. This is, if you're listening and watching this right now, if you're just listening, you can't see my face. I'm blown away. I'm in awe because I feel like there's so many, cliches are not the right word, but there's so many things that are thrown about in this world right now about these themes and topics, and we take them as reality, but then getting to sit with you, and I almost feel like now I need to go and buy all your books and read all of them.
Thank you.
Not just this one. That's genuinely how I feel right now. Like I'm about to walk out of here and ask my team to order every single one of your books, and I feel like I have to sit with them for weeks because I feel like you're giving me such a refreshing perspective on so many things that I feel I know subconsciously, things that I've known without the backing of science. But to hear that from your perspective is fascinating. One of the big ones for me is purpose is such a big part of my life. I became a monk because of purpose. I left being a monk because of purpose. I married my wife because of purpose. I do what I'm doing right now with you because of meaning and purpose. Is purpose critical to happiness in life? Or can someone be happy without purpose?
They probably can. It's just a heck of a lot easier to be happy with purpose because we are a relational species. And purpose can take a number of forms. It can be helping other people. It can be developing personal skills. Like I have a ping pong coach because I love playing. It keeps my brain young. It makes me happy. Or it can be doing something massively important at work. My favorite book, or at least it's in the top 5, is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
me too.
He was younger than Freud, but they were competitors in the sense that Freudian psychoanalysis was very powerful in psychiatry. But he developed a kind of therapy around logos therapy or meaning therapy. And I'd so much rather talk to my patients about meaning than their love relationship with their mother, right? It just never went anywhere with me and that whole thing. But getting people into why you want to be well, why are you on the planet? What is your deepest sense of purpose? And too often in the younger generation, nobody's asked them that question. And so now they go, well, I want to be Jeff Bezos and I want to be the richest person in the world. And as soon as you do that, you will set yourself up to fall, right? And that is one of the origin thoughts of depression. And this is what the bad part of social media. It's you start comparing yourself to people that are actually not completely real. And because you can't live up, you feel less than. And then that drives depression, along with, oh, by the way, you're eating crap. You have low vitamin D level. Your hormones aren't good because of the toxins, toxic lotion your mother's put on your body, right? I mean, it's more complicated than that. But whenever you compare yourself, I could go, well, I haven't won a Nobel Prize, so my life is meaningless. Well, that's just nuts, right? The person who won the Nobel Prize in psychiatry did it for prefrontal lobotomies, right? Putting an ice pick up above your eyes and wiping out your frontal lobe. So it's not, I'm not pining for the Nobel Prize, right? The thing that gives me joy and meaning and purpose is not being better than other people. It's being the best I can be and having the most meaningful existence. I learned that. So when I was in college, I was generally the top student in my class. But I helped everybody else. I was never about, I need to be better than you. I wanted us both to be our best. And oh, by the way, if I helped you study, it's reinforcing the information for me. So Hans Selye was a very famous stress researcher, and it's a term he called egoistic altruism. It's when I help you, I'm also helping me.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there such a thing in the brain as completely selfless altruism? Like, does the opposite of that exist? And what does that feel and look like?
I don't know. There's a phrase I say often, is we're all out for ourselves. Mm-hmm. It's just the more sophisticated you are, the harder it is to tell. I recently adopted, my two nieces got taken by Child Protective Services in Oregon into foster care, which sent me, I know you talked about vulnerability, it sent me into a panic. And I'm like, no, I'm not okay with this. But my wife grew up in a home where there was a lot of addiction. So I'm rescuing the kids, and she's like, no, I don't want to be part of that world. And so it was one of our very few fights. And so what we agreed to do was wrap services around their mother, my wife's half-sister. And then within 5 months, the kids were out of foster care, and now we care for them. And people go, oh, well, that's so kind of you. And it is kind. But it's awesome for me, right? When I see their report cards and they're getting straight A's, when I see them fall in love with their brains, that turns on the dopamine dripping to my nucleus accumbens. And, I see them do a ward. Yes, okay. So that's a dopamine dump, but you don't want too many of them, right? And it's meaningful, it's purposeful, but it's a huge blessing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, that one's I've always fascinated by is what is selflessness and what is the definition of selflessness? Because I actually don't think it's bad, and I think you agree from what you just said. I don't think it's bad to want to do good for others and feel good about it. But almost we sometimes look at that in a negative way and say, oh, well, you're only doing it to help yourself.
Well, there are always negative people. And, I think CNN and Fox have done more to promote mental illness with the constant negativity, fighting, looking for something to be wrong. And then they train the minds of the millions of people who watch to look for what is wrong, which is a bad mental discipline, rather than looking for what is right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to go back and pick up off the shelf the exciting topic you brought up, because I thought, oh yeah, let's talk about that, because I have some very similar views to you, but I want to hear your perspective around marijuana and alcohol, specifically marijuana. We're in LA right now, and obviously it's legalized. And
pot dispensaries.
Absolutely.
Lots of corners
you
here
can
in
go,
LA.
yeah, you can go.
It's
get an Uber as quick
fairly
as you can go
horrifying.
to the dispensary.
So I have no dog in this fight. In fact, I make more money if you smoke pot than if you don't smoke pot. You are way more likely to come see me. And people just don't understand the research. They go, oh, well, there's not enough research. No, marijuana increases the risk of psychosis 450% if teenagers start smoking pot. That is not a good thing. And the reason I sort of turned negative on it was I've done 150,000 SPECT scans.
Yeah.
SPECT looks at blood flow and activity. It makes the brain look toxic. It does. I published a study in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease on 1,000 pot smokers. Every area of their brain was lower. And then just a few months ago, I published the world's largest imaging study on 62,454 scans on how the brain ages. So we looked at the brain from 9 months to 105, and it's got fascinating aging patterns, like it's not really done until about 25 in girls and 28 in boys. And then we looked, well, what are the factors that accelerate aging? On the top of the list was schizophrenia. If you have schizophrenia, your brain looks worse than everybody else. The second worst thing was marijuana. It was worse than smoking. It was worse than alcohol. I'm not a fan. I see so many people go, but I feel better. I concentrate better. I'm more creative. And I'm like, there's so many other ways to do it that don't have a potentially toxic impact on your brain. Now, having said that, I'm a huge fan, and I think it should be legal. You're really going to put potheads in jail? You're going to sleep deprive them, chronically stress them, let them hang out with people who do bad things? That's insane. But let's not, they're really separate issues.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's not glamorize the
Let's not
use of it.
glamorize, and everybody thinks, and CBD now is like, they're giving it to their dog, for goodness sake. And I worry, cocaine used to be in Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And opiates used to be the antidepressant. And when Xanax came out onto the market, it was called Mommy's Little Helper. And all of those things have caused disasters in our country, and we're setting ourselves up again. It's sort of like 20 years ago, alcohol was a health food.
Yeah.
Right? I got to have my 2 glasses of wine a day because it's good for my heart. But we clearly know now it's related to 7 different kinds of cancer. Even if you're only a mild to moderate drinking, any drinking shows an increased risk for cancer. So I don't smoke pot and I don't drink. Now, my wife drinks like 2 or 3 glasses of wine a month, where when I first met her, she drank considerably more than that. Never a problem. But I don't want it to have a negative impact on her health.
Yeah, you've all heard it. There we go. Don't have to just hear my perspective.
We're going to get haters.
No, but I'm so glad we went. No, but I'm glad we went. I mean, who better to speak to than someone who's looking at the direct effect? And it comes back to that same point that you brought up earlier around, if I go take that one back off the shelf, of now versus now and later. And it comes back to that because I experimented with drugs throughout my teens. Absolutely everything under the sun. Never got addicted, never did something consistently enough, but always wanted to take 1 or 2 tries of everything. And then gave it all up at 18 and I haven't drank alcohol or smoked anything or taken anything
And do you
since.
feel like you're missing something?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I feel amazing, and I get to be creative, and my whole life is creative, and I get to travel the world. And
people go, well, if I go to a party, I'm anxious.
Yeah.
Well, learn how to deal with the anxiety
Yeah.
rather than have to medicate the anxiety, because that's now, but not later.
right. Yeah.
And, and when you're around and you go to a party where there are a lot of people drinking, for me, I generally just leave because they're sort of stupid. And they're like saying things that it's like, did you really say that? That's so rude. Why would you say that? Because it drops frontal lobe function and it drops cerebellar function. And your cerebellum is the major processing organ in your brain. And you don't want to be slow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is what we're saying. Like, I'm not judging anyone who does either of these things, and I'm not criticizing anyone. It's just making yourself aware. It's just becoming more aware. And that's why I asked the question, not to judge anyone, not to criticize anyone, not because I think I'm better than anyone for not having done it, just to be aware. And when I was young, the thing that made me become aware was my friend and I went to see his aunt, who happened to be a heroin addict, and she had a fit in front of us. And that was the day I was like, okay, I cannot do this any longer. Because actually seeing someone who is addicted to heroin have a fit in front of me was far more telling to me than any study or any research or whatever it was. Just seeing that and experiencing that, I was just like, okay, I need to stop messing around in this space.
So I was at the White House last year about this time, and all of my liberal friends go, "You'd really go to the White House?" And I'm like, it's the executive branch of government. And they asked me to help them think about the issue of the opiate epidemic and prison reform. And so I was really honored.
Of course.
And my input was we need to develop a national brain health program to teach people to fall in love with their brains. And that's why you don't drink, or that's why you don't do drugs, because you love your brain and you want it to be healthy.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And congratulations, by the way. That's incredible. And I'm happy that people like yourself are being involved in those discussions and decisions. Because like you said, again, if you don't see it, I mean, how can you tell anyone what to do? Amazing. I wanted to start touching on a specific area that I had here was around the I in the mnemonic is inspiration. And I wanted to talk about why is it that inspiration is often so short-lived instead of long-lasting? Like we feel like even on social media now, people watch a video and they feel inspired, or people hear a speech and they feel inspired, and people even hear this podcast today and they'll feel inspired, but then the change doesn't happen. There's no application. There's no practice. Why is that inspiration short-lived, and how do you make inspiration last into action and application?
Okay, so you have to turn them into habits, and because we're habitual creatures, and if you can turn the good things, so it's the smallest thing I can do today that will make the biggest difference. Start every day with today is going to be a great day.
Right.
What one purposeful thing will I do today? And people spend more time planning their vacations than planning their lives, which is a little odd. And so I love everyone to do the one-page miracle that's in the book. It's, so what do I want in my relationship? So for example, with my wife, I want a kind, caring, loving, supportive, passionate relationship. I always want that. I don't always feel like that.
Yeah.
Right? But if I get my eyes on that, when I get that rude thought that comes into my head, I just filter it with, will this get you what you want? And no, it won't get me what I want. So I inhibit it. Now, how can I inhibit thoughts? Well, if I'm drinking, I'm less likely to inhibit it. If I'm smoking pot, I'm less likely to inhibit it. If I haven't slept, I'm less likely to inhibit it. And so it's the brain health habits. It's then the clear direction. I want this. And so, well, then how do I get that? And that's where I begin to break free of the bad habits. Plus, I published 2 studies that showed as your weight goes up, the physical size and function of your brain goes down. So you need to be a little bit horrified by, I always think with motivation is know what you want, but also be clear with what you don't want, because pain is actually a bigger motivator for people than pleasure often.
100%. And that's what I love about this book. I love how strategic the book is and how practical it is. And that's when I was speaking to you earlier. I love the fact that there are activities, exercises, questions that people can use to reflect on themselves in the book. And that's unique because often we find that when books are written from a medical perspective, it can be quite hard to digest. Whereas when I was reading through this, it didn't feel that way at all. So anyone who's watching and listening right now, if you're looking for tools, tips, practical habits to actually break through, then please go out and get the book because it's going to help you do that. So just thanking you for actually having gone to that stage. So now we finish every interview. I will ask you if there's anything I missed, but we do finish every interview with what I call the final 5, which is my final 5 questions, usually rapid fire, quick fire. in the final 5 minutes. So I have yours here. If they're not rapid fire, I'm not upset, because I think your insights are beyond 1 to 3 words, and I'm okay with that. The first question I have, which is from the book, but I loved it, was, what is the quickest way to break a panic attack?
So 4 simple things. The first thing is breathe. You got to take a big breath and take at least twice as long to blow it out. That'll trigger a parasympathetic response in your body to calm you down. The next thing is, what are you thinking? Write it down. Because often fortune-telling negative thoughts drive panic attack. You're predicting the worst possible thing, and then your brain is just masterful at making it worse. So killing the ant. The third thing is, don't leave. If you're starting to have a panic attack at work, don't leave. Because if you leave, the panic will now start to control you. And it could actually turn into something called agoraphobia, where you can't even leave your home because you're worried you're going to have a panic attack. And then the fourth thing, if all those things aren't working, there's some simple supplements that can be really helpful. Theanine, GABA, ashwagandha. I'm a huge fan of things like that to just help calm you down, and I talk about them in the book.
Absolutely. Amazing. Great piece of advice. Love that. Second question is, what are the simplest food we can add to our diets to nourish our brain?
Colorful fruits and vegetables. So not Skittles when I say colorful, or M&Ms.
M&Ms, yeah.
No. But try, when you're in the produce department, to pick as many colors as you can, because they're loaded with antioxidants. Also, scratch the low-fat diet, because 60% of the solid weight of your brain is fat. Avocados are God's butter. I'm a huge fan of wild fish. The societies that eat the most fish actually have the lowest incidence of depression.
Amazing. Great advice. So succinct as well. I'm impressed. This is brilliant. Third question is, where does ego sit in all of this, and how much have you studied ego at all, if at all?
Well, I actually like Freud's concept of id, ego, and superego, and I really think of them about prefrontal cortex. So when your prefrontal cortex is low, or you are young, it's just not developed, that's the child in you that takes over. And in our society, the 4-year-old rules. Whether it's the White House or Congress or the media or, just everyday society, we're way too impulsive, and there are way too many temper tantrums going on. The ego is really healthy frontal lobe function. So you're 28 or 40, and you're good to your brain, and it helps you make good decisions and be thoughtful. The superego, Freud's concept, is really when your frontal lobes work too hard, and you're rigid, you're inflexible, and you're harsh to yourself and to others. So balance your brain, balance the ego in a good way.
Brilliant. Question number 4, you brought it up slightly earlier. What's your best advice for anyone who has party anxiety or social anxiety in those kind of circles?
So it's so common. It's actually one of the most common anxieties on the planet, and it's why people drink. It's why people do drugs, because they feel uncomfortable around other people. And I think you'll like this, learning how to manage your anxiety through things like hypnosis, guided imagery, meditation. It just should be part of everything we do, along with learning how to not believe every stupid thought you have. In the book, I have one of my favorite rules. It's called the 18-40-60 rule, which says when you're 18, you worry about what everybody's thinking of you. And when you're 40, you don't give a damn what anybody thinks about you. And when you're 60, you realize nobody has been thinking about you at all. People spend their days worrying and thinking about themselves, not you. So it's really hard for my paranoid schizophrenics to get this concept, because they think the whole world revolves around them. It just doesn't. And if you can get it, that a negative look from someone else may mean nothing more than they are constipated. You don't No. And other people are anxious too. And so often, if you're at a party and you're feeling anxious, go, I just feel anxious sometimes, and the other person's likely to go, oh, I'm that way too. And then all of a sudden, everybody's anxiety goes down. When you believe you have to present yourself as that perfect person, nobody can relate to you because nobody's perfect.
Yeah. So true. That's a great piece of advice. As soon as you open up and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, someone else has the permission to say that too. Absolutely. I love that. And fifth and final question was actually all around what we spoke about before, which was about what I'm fascinated by you, and when we spoke earlier as well, is your ability to bring together science and spirituality, your ability to understand both dimensions and both approaches to understanding our human selves and condition. And you spoke about earlier, we were talking about death. And I'd love for you to reiterate that story that we were speaking about earlier and just elaborate more on what you have found in terms of all your studies, etc., through spirituality coming out.
We are all spiritual beings. And as a psychiatrist, if I don't understand your deepest sense of meaning and purpose, why you believe you're on the planet, and what happens to your soul after you die, then I don't really understand all of you, which is my goal. And so I told you before, last week I had a friend that died, and he told his partner that she had to let him go because he's been invited. And where he's going, he's seen, and it's beautiful. And it was 1977. I read a book called Life After Life by Ray Moody, and it was about people who had near-death experiences. And it gave me a really deep sense of peace that I don't believe I'm here by random chance. Now, I know a lot of my science friends, they're 100% on evolution and we're all here by random chance. They just forget the second law of physics. The second law of physics is entropy. Things go from order to disorder in the universe. They don't go from disorder to order. And I'm sorry, I have a brand new granddaughter, and I don't think Haven's here by random chance. I think it actually takes more faith to believe we're here without any creative design or intelligent design than to believe that our interaction today happened out of randomness.
I love that perspective. It definitely, in my sense, is to think things are undesigned is actually generally pushing our faith much further. I couldn't agree more. That's really well said, really beautifully said. Daniel, it's been absolutely incredible. I've learned so much today. I genuinely mean this, and I'm not lying. As soon as I walk out of this room, I'm going to ask my team to order every single one of your books. I feel like I'm going to dive deep into all of them, and I feel like I want to continue the conversation offline and back on the podcast anytime you like, because I can only think that anyone who's watched and listened to this today has been benefited in some way. And I know that when they go and buy the book, they'll be benefited in an even bigger way. So I highly, highly recommend it. Is there anything that I haven't touched on that you really feel like I should have asked you, could have asked you, would have asked you, and you'd like to touch on?
Two things.
Yeah, let's do it.
I finished the book with a chapter on love, that you don't do the right thing because you should. You do the right thing because you love yourself. And I've just thought more and more, one of my other books is called The Brain Warrior's Way, because my wife and I wrote it together, and we just believe we're in a war for the health of our brain. Alzheimer's is expected to triple. 36% of teenage girls suffer from depression. That if you love yourself and you love your planet and you love your country and you love your world, that ultimately doing the right thing is not because you should do it, but because of love. And if you do it out of love, it's just so much easier to do. The other thing, just to touch on for a second, is
before we get it, is there another thing separate? Is that different to what can we go into the one you just mentioned? Because I'm fascinated by it too. In the Vedas that I studied as a monk, it talks about the 3 types of motivation. And the lowest motivation is ignorance or fear. The middle motivation is duty or obligation or responsibility, or because you have to. And the highest motivation is love, as you rightly said. So I couldn't agree more. Do you think, though, that begs the question that the biggest challenge we all have is that we don't love ourselves, like we don't love our brain, like we're so inundated with trying to be that which we're not, or letting the opinions of others affect how we are and our self-belief. And that's actually what's affecting our brain health the most, is we're not looking at it through the lens you're recommending and suggesting.
I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And, when I turned 50, my doctor wanted me to have a colonoscopy. I asked him why I didn't want to look at my brain. Wasn't the other end just as important? But we don't screen it, we don't look at it, and ultimately we don't love it. You can't let a child hit a soccer ball with their head and say you love that child or that child's brain. It's just not possible when you understand the physics of it. And
I've hit a lot of soccer balls with my head.
Me.
All of them just flashed before my eyes. I love soccer. I'm a huge football fan. So, yeah. Okay.
So I tell, because I have done 225 NFL players, Hall of Fame players like Terry Bradshaw. And if you're going to do it, because we're always going to have dangerous jobs. That's a dangerous job. If you're going to do it, you should be putting your brain in a healing environment all the way along, not just when you retire. See, that's doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
Because if you're going to play, and one of my players signed a $42 million contract, so he's going to play, you have to be rehabilitating it all along, because you'll actually be a better player.
Yes, absolutely. And the second thing you were going to go off on, then I stopped you.
The second one is we had just began to talk about a book I'm just starting to write called The End of Mental Illness.
Yes, let's get into it.
I'm so tired of the stigma attached to mental health problems. And these, in fact, aren't mental health problems. They're brain health problems. Get your brain right, and your mind will follow. And I just think we have to completely break the paradigm and create a new
So you're
specialty.
saying stress, depression, anxiety, all of these are brain health. They're not
health
mental
problems. And when you get your brain right, then you realize I have to learn how to manage stress, because stress actually shrinks the major memory center in my brain, which is going to make me more stressed if I can't remember what I'm supposed to do. That depression clearly is a brain health problem. And there's not one form of depression. And that's the problem. You go to your doctor, and 85% of psychiatric drugs are prescribed by non-psychiatric physicians or nurse practitioners or your physician assistant. I'm depressed, so they can give you Lexapro.
and one size fits all.
And one size fits all. When you look at the scans of depressed people, there are at least 7 different kinds. And one, yes, can help this pattern, but will actually make that pattern worse. And so all of these medications have black box warnings because they hurt people. And we can just do so much better. And coming here, I saw someone on Hollywood and Vine who was clearly psychotic. They were talking to themselves. They were having this whole conversation. And I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if he had a brain injury. I wonder if he has an infection in his brain. Lyme disease is rampant in this country for causing psychosis. I wonder if his body's inflamed. And so easy to call him crazy. Easy to give him an antipsychotic that he won't take because it'll make him feel bad. The harder question, but the better question, is why is he that way? And if I balance his brain, will it help balance his life? And my experience, the answer is yes.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you to everyone who's watched and listened. Remember, you can get the book, Feel Better Fast and Make It Last. Go get it right now. If you're fascinated by this conversation, we literally just scratched the surface of what this book really takes into account. Make sure you go and get it if you like this conversation. Thank you so much, Daniel, for taking out the time to be here. And I feel like we need to do another 10 because I'd love to dive into all of the different types of clients you've worked with and hear the stories about how you specifically worked with them with their specific challenges to overcome them. So I think this is the first of many, hopefully, And I'm sure all of you watching and listening will agree. But Daniel, thank you so much for taking out the time.
Well,
So
I look
grateful.
forward to being with you again.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Amazing. If you want even more videos just like this one, make sure you subscribe and click on the boxes over here. I'm also excited to let you know that you can now get my book, Think Like a Monk, from thinklikeamonkbook.com. Check below in the description to make sure you order today.